Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
She's Santa Claus tonight. You better run, boy. You better run for your life.
But Mother Superior, it's Santa Claus.
Now I have another reason to hate Christmas.
Now that hell is full, I wonder where you will go.
The caller is in the house. The calls are coming from the house.
You're my family now.
But if you're bad boys and girls, your name goes in the bad boys and girls book, and I'll bring you something horrible.
Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus.
The All-American Spook Show Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the All-American Spook Show Podcast. I'm Josh, and I'm joined here with Donny.
Hey.
And the Professor and Will, for various reasons, couldn't be with us this week. They have, it's in the holidays, so no surprise. You know, we all got stuff going on, so they just weren't able to make it tonight. So you just got Donny and I, and boy. Well, I mean, I guess if anybody, somebody had to do it, right? So it landed on us. Now, we took a random wheel spin. We all nominated something, and we took a random wheel spin for an older holiday movie, Christmas movie, horror movie specifically. And Donny nominated Blood Beat, right? Wasn't this you? This was you, right?
Yeah, I did. I had never seen it, but we had mentioned it a couple of times on I think the library of the Professor, or something. It was something odd.
It's come up.
It has come up before. I was like, yeah, we'll throw it. I'll nominate this.
Well,
and here we are.
You just have to know the power that you wield, because anytime you nominate something, there's at least a better than 75% chance you're going to win it. So
I have no idea. No idea how these.
Well, this is the power you have, and I don't know if you've wielded it very smartly this time, because we landed on Blood Beat from 1983. So I'm sure, like any of these type of weird movies like this one, and we'll get into it. There's probably tons of fans out there of this movie just because of what it is. But yeah, we'll get to it. But yeah, we encourage you, before we dive in, we encourage you to go over to aaspookshow.com. Center of the universe, the Spook Show universe, so to speak, where you can find everything. Links to all of our past episodes, YouTube stuff we put on the YouTube channel, our Patreon, of course, and you can also reach out on patreon.com/aaspookshow. Our TeePublic page, you get merchandise, all kinds of cool stuff. So yeah, aaspookshow.com is the place you want to visit.
We're still updating it. We'll always update it, actually. But yeah, we're still working through it. Got some things on the in the pipeline.
Yeah, we've got lots of ideas for stuff that we're going to be adding on there. So you always want to keep checking it out, see if we've put up some new cool stuff. But until then, it's just kind of the center of the universe. Everything spins out of there, so you want to go check it out. So yeah, I guess without any further build-up, we'll go ahead and toss to the trailer for Blood Beat.
A ghost, a devil, a poltergeist. Call it what you will. It lives, it breathes. You'll be paralyzed with fear as it kills and mutilates anyone in its path. A girl possessed, woman tormented by her psychic powers. Blood beat, a horrifying chain of inexplicable events and evil presence seeking revenge, spilling blood, spreading terror.
Blood Beat, a video from Thorn EMI.
All right, so that's the trailer for that. So I'm going to assume, Donny, this is, well, you said a minute ago you've never watched it before, right? Yeah, same here. I've never seen it before. So before we go any further, though, I will throw out that we are a spoiler-filled podcast. So if you've never seen Blood Beat and you want to watch it, you probably want to hit pause now, go find a copy, go check it out, watch it. Yeah, this was interesting. But we encourage you to go. We encourage you to go watch it for yourself, and then pause this and come back and then listen to us, because we are going to spoil it if you haven't seen it. But yeah, I'll go ahead and dip into some of the background information. There's not a lot, but there's a few interesting things that I found, and I'm sure you might have found a few, maybe the same stuff. I don't know. We'll find out. But this was awesome. You know how we do the alternate titles sometimes? And some of them, like this one that I'm about to say, are like literal English translations of the title. So it's like, here's the title. In this case, here's the title in Japanese, which, I'm not even going to begin to try to pronounce that. But the literal English translation of that title is Bloodbeat, Blade of Bloodthirsty Devilishness.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That would have been better than just Bloodbeat.
I mean, I think Bloodbeat's a fine title. Now, is it
That's fine.
Is it the right title for this movie? Probably not. But I think it's a especially for that stuff of the 80s, like early to mid 80s like this, 1983, it is one of those titles that's going to grab you, because this is that time period where everybody's, really digging and watching these types of movies. It is what it is. But yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Blade of Bloodthirsty Devilishness.
Yeah, but it doesn't, I guess, yeah.
It was released on video, best I can tell, March 18th, 1983, here in the U.S., and it was made by Husky Pup Film Productions. It was rated R, total runtime of 1 hour and 27 minutes, so that's a reprieve, right? Of course, it's listed as a horror on IMDb, and it was filmed over the course of 8 weeks in Spring Green, Wisconsin. I'm not exactly sure where on the map Spring Green is, but I would imagine it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's up there.
It was actually shot on 35 millimeter film. But the cinematographer of the movie, his name is Vladimir von Maul, he thought it was being shot for television. So that's why this movie is full screen. Even though they got a hold of a 35 millimeter print to do the 4K restoration years later, back in 2017, October of 2017, it was released on DVD and Blu-ray by Vinegar Syndrome, who did the 4K restoration from a 35 millimeter print. But because the dude had shot it in full screen, 4:3 aspect, because he thought it was for TV. And apparently that print had a lot of mold and moisture damage to it too. So I think that's what you see in, the version that both of us watched. You can see some of that graininess and the weird stuff. But I think overall though, I think the job that they did restoring this, because I can only imagine what this thing looked like before. If you get some old VHS copy of this movie, because apparently it was seldomly released. This movie,
which Smoak has a VHS copy.
He's probably one of the few, I would imagine, because I don't think this in no way was any kind of success. I don't think it ever got released on DVD until this October 2017 release of the restoration, that came out on DVD and Blu-ray. So I think there was probably just one or two versions of it that came out on VHS back in the mid 80s, and that was it.
There's probably, like you said, there's probably fans of this movie, but
it's so weird. So
it's definitely a weird one.
Yeah.
But it's just how do they pick these movies that get which movies get restored?
Yeah.
Which just
Vinegar Syndrome is one of those kind of production houses, however they label themselves. They thrive on finding the most niche, weird movies that I'm sure people are like, oh, you got to find this one, and then they find it and restore it. That's kind of their thing, So for this one to be one of them doesn't surprise me at all after watching it. This is right up that weird alley for sure. It was directed, written, and the music was composed by Fabrizi Ange Zaffaratos. He also in the movie played the samurai, and I think he had some other small role in the movie too. But he was the dude in the samurai suit. He was also a writer and a composer on a movie, a French film, I believe, called Le Grand Frime. And that was pretty much it. By the way, he also said that he was doing some heavy drugs at this time. And surprise, surprise, right? He was on some stuff. It didn't say exactly what, but he admits that he was on some stuff. And the title of the movie, Bloodbeat, is from that feeling apparently you get of hearing your heartbeat while you're on drugs. Was what he claims. That's why he called it Bloodbeat, because I guess you can hear your heart. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you hear and see all kinds of shit on some heavy stuff. So
yeah, I mean, I guess thing is you think beat. I don't think of heart. I think of music.
Yeah.
The beat. Yeah, most of the soundtrack on this was fucking classical.
Yeah, yeah.
It was classical violin. I
which it adds to the weirdness.
Oh my God. It's really just like,
even basically, like, and a lot of the information that we know about this movie now comes from, like, apparently the commentary on that Vinegar Syndrome release, and I'm sure some other random interviews, but because this dude had never really done much else, that's about the only time you're going to get him to sit down and talk about it. And apparently, I read something where, like, they got some stuff out of him when they did the commentary, but they had like a 15-minute long or so sit-down interview with him, and he barely wanted to talk about it. He wanted to talk about all the other stuff in his life, like, you know, his love of art and music and all this other stuff. And meanwhile, he's barely talking about Bloodbeat, and this is an extra on the damn Bloodbeat Blu-ray, you know. But so he's one of those guys, just fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
And this movie, you know, I think it proves out. The movie stars Helen Benton as Kathy. Really nothing else to point out about her.
Yeah,
this
was the only thing she did ever.
Claudia Payton as Sarah. Once again, same deal, pretty much. Terry Brown as Gary. He was in a movie called Dark Rider. Ironically, another movie called My Samurai, and another one called Copycat. I almost said copyright, but Copycat. Dana Day as Dolly. She's the younger sister. Really not much else to point out. And James Fitzgibbons as Ted. He did something called Producing the Hood. That was about the only other thing worth mentioning.
Yeah.
So yeah, this cast is mostly like, this is pretty much the only time you saw probably any of them outside of Terry Brown, you know, the guy that played Gary. He was in a handful of other things.
Yeah, most of that is also true for the crew as well.
Yeah, and I believe I read somewhere in something in my research that said that basically some of these people, it didn't point out who, some of these people were basically just in this movie because they lived around there. Like, they lived in or near Spring Green, Wisconsin. So fuck it, throw them in. You know, we need people in the movie.
Yeah.
So I think that's basically what it comes to there. So, did you have anything else you want to point out before we dig into this meaty Christmas sandwich?
Nah, let's just get to it. Let's just take a bite.
Hurry, step right this way, folks, for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, taste-tempting candies of finest quality. Enjoy popcorn, exploded into tender, delicious, crispy bites of crunchy goodness. Enjoy the tops in cool, refreshing soft drinks. If you want to enjoy some refreshments, this is your opportunity. There will now be a short intermission.
For you, the listeners of the All-American Spook Show podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So, like we always do, we just randomly go over to Audible and we'll type in the title of the movie or something that has something to do with the movie. So I just went in and typed in Bloodbeat, and here's what we get. I've got 6 results, just typing in the words Bloodbeat. The first one, the 8-week blood sugar diet. How to beat diabetes fast and stay off medication. That one's 4.5 hours long. Go the Way Your Blood Beats on Truth, Bisexuality, and Desire by Michael Amherst. That one's almost 3.5 hours long. And then, let's see, Fear of Blood Hypnosis. Beat the bodily fluid blues with hypnosis. What the fuck? That one's, well, it's only 33 minutes, so I guess, you know, thank God. It's not a long listen, but yeah, there you go. If any of that sounds like it's up your alley, and I don't know why the hell it would be, you can go over to and download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow for your free audiobook. So as has been our habit here lately, I will roll over to IMDb and I'll find the plot summary just to see what pops up, because these are sometimes entertaining, although mostly usually hard to read. We've got the usual one-sentence one. A young woman accompanies her boyfriend to his family's rural Wisconsin home for Christmas, where the spirit of a Japanese samurai begins wreaking havoc on them.
It's about right.
Yeah, well, it's not wrong, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. That's the only synopsis, because this other thing is explaining how you submit a synopsis. So, yeah, that's it. So,
there you go.
But really, that's all you got to say about it, right? As far as like what this movie is, and we'll get into the some of the play-by-play throughout here, our conversation. But that's as easy a way to explain this movie as any, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
they're celebrating Christmas, and then some kind of random samurai starts attacking them in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like,
now, to be fair, I don't know if they ever say. Maybe they do, and I just missed it. Do they ever say where they are in the movie?
No, well, they really don't have to, because there's a there's a it's Dolly who wears a shirt that says property of Wisconsin Athletic Department. So there's that indication.
I just don't remember seeing it on the screen, like, Spring Green, Wisconsin, or
but
whatever.
Okay, so it doesn't really explain why there's a ghost samurai in Wisconsin. Like, I remember her finding the sword and looking at it, but it doesn't.
But apparently that didn't really happen. I don't know. I don't know, because it's like, remember she saw, she opens up a chest in her room, and we're jumping forward a little bit here, but she opens up a chest in her room, and there's a fucking full-on samurai outfit in the chest.
Yeah.
And then they hear her scream, they run in, and the chest is not there. There's no samurai outfit, and she says, "The sword, it cut me," and she doesn't have a cut. So is this? But then later on, they randomly stab the samurai out in the woods, and then carry the suit back to the house. So it's on one hand, is this real? But on another hand, well, clearly it's fucking real. So one of many questions that were left unanswered in this movie. I think you start right from the beginning, though, with the synthesizer insanity. that music and the shit from the beginning, it's totally 1983, 1982.
Yeah, that is
heavy. Yeah,
and it would have been fine if they stuck with that. But no, the rest of it is classical violin. Yeah. And it's
loud,
God!
And it's loud.
And it's
on some parts it's almost unlistenable because it's so fucking loud.
Yeah, I wanted to mute it.
I wanted to mute it as soon as the movie started, but you have to play it out. But yeah, I mean you're right. It would have been cooler if they'd have stuck with the synth score. It would have felt more of the time, and it did right out the gates. I'm like, all right, here we go, full on 1983. I'm ready for the ride, and then. Classical starts spinning.
Ugh. Dreadful.
Oh, and you haven't watched Home Sweet Home yet, have you?
I have not.
We'll get to that on Spookshow Rewind one of these days, but that'll be many moons from now, at the pace we're going. But this movie had some heavy Home Sweet Home vibes at first, until it kind of took a right-hand turn and went into the Ghost Samurai shit. But I'm telling you, that first 15, 20 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be just like Home Sweet Home.
I was like, what gave you that vibe, though? I mean, I haven't seen it.
Well,
but still,
when you see it, I think, I wish, Will or Smoak were here right now, because they've seen it and they know what I'm saying. But when you watch it, it's just that backwoods, we're gathering for the holidays thing where nothing happens, right? I mean, think about it. The first 15, 20 minutes, fucking nothing. You're just watching them well, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? Let's go hunting. They go hunting multiple times. That's really all that happens.
Yeah. Well, also at the beginning, what was going on with the extreme close-ups? Just close in on Kathy's face, close in on Sarah's face.
Avant-garde filmmaking. That's what it is.
God damn.
While this dude's doing LSD, the Fabrici, whatever the fuck his name is, the guy that made it.
And Kathy, I guess the mom, she looked like Iron Eyes Cody.
I was about to say, old stone face.
Yeah, the crying Indian from the pollution PSA.
No, even more importantly, he was in Ernest Goes to Camp, right? Wasn't that him?
That's right. He was in Ernest Goes to Camp.
That's a more important pull there, I think.
Yeah.
Ernest Goes to Camp.
that's not even a connection. But it's, I guess a reference to a connection.
It's not an official connection for sure.
Yeah,
he's not in it, but she's got that stone face. It's like, you don't know how to read her. It's like she wasn't an actress or something.
That's funny. But no, as soon as this was at the beginning, but as soon as Gary and Kathy walked up to the house, I wanted the house to explode.
That would have saved us a lot of grief. That would have what was the total run time? I said an hour and 27. Yeah, that would have saved us about an hour and 17 minutes. So yeah, that would the shitty couple. The shittiest couple of all.
Yeah, it was brutal.
I love it when they go hunting, though. When they find, everybody goes hunting except for the mom, Kathy, because she's got her fucking painting is so important. And they keep stressing that, my work is so important. I have to be down here painting these god-awful abstract pictures to hang everywhere around my house. My work is the most important thing.
So the mental illness.
Yes. So basically, the entire family goes out hunting, and Sarah, who is the girlfriend that has been brought here, so she's not used to this kind of thing. She's Ted, right? Yeah, Ted is her boyfriend. This is his family. She's just come to visit, right? So they all go hunting, and then by the way, I don't think you hunt that way. Like, you have like 7 people, whatever it was, line up with bows and arrows and guns, and then just point it all beside each other, and then just point it at a deer like it's a firing squad. And she just freaks out, right? Like, stop! And
but like, what did she think it was gonna be like?
Yeah, like, I'm going out here to
Why
hunt.
did she
Wait a minute,
even
they're
go?
actually gonna kill this thing. She freaks out. She runs, and then Gary, in one of the best moments of acting in the entire movie, he just goes, "God damn!" and
slams his hat down. Oh man, that was like something straight out of fucking Dukes of Hazzard.
That's one of the more authentic, reactions to something in this movie, though, because that was, like, if you would be out hunting and you've got your rifle or your bow and arrow and you're ready to go, and then somebody just goes, "Nah!" That's the way you would react to it, for sure. But then when she runs away, she runs into this random guy who just died. Like, he's been eviscerated or something. I don't know what the fuck's happened to him.
Yeah, it doesn't even, like, I don't know. Was it
you didn't
was
see
he
it.
shot?
I mean, like, it looks like he was stabbed or something. And obviously you put 2 and 2 together later. The samurai, I guess, was out there.
Yeah.
But you didn't see this happen on camera. You just see the dude run up on her, and then it's a thing. But yeah, that was really my point of bringing that one in specific up, was that was really the first time in the movie something happened. Because up until then, it was just like, hey, I want to introduce you to Sarah. Like, you meet all the family members. Yeah, it was just like
regular life that no one would record.
No one would, nobody would care to see. It's just like everyone arriving for the holidays, and then, oh, let's go hunting,
Yeah.
But up until that point right there, when she freaks out and runs into this guy, nothing really had happened. When Gary and Kathy go into the room and like have this argument about her work, how important her work is, because he wants to marry her and she won't do it. Then he's basically just like, fuck you, fuck all of this. And then just goes in the living room and puts headphones on and sits there and watches TV. Like, wouldn't you just leave?
No. I guess.
No, I got something to watch here.
Watch Ted Koppel.
And then Uncle Pete, who shows up just randomly.
Oh, yeah.
They just kind of throw him in. He leaves. I don't even know why he left. I guess he just went into town to go drink. I don't know, whatever the fuck he was doing. His car breaks down, his truck breaks down the side of the road. And then somebody you don't see comes up and throats him. He just gets stabbed in the throat or whatever. That's all you see, though. So I was really kind of disappointed up to this point, because I was like, oh, fuck. Like, it's going to be one of those movies, like, in some ways, parts of the first Friday the 13th were, where it's just like, things happen, but you don't really see them happen. There were certain parts in that movie that were just like this. Like, you kind of see them happen, and they quickly cut away. So I'm like, fuck. Here we go. It's going to be one of those kind of movies where, it's more implied than it is you really seeing anything, and I hate that in a horror movie. I know not every horror movie is going to be super gory or anything. It gets annoying.
Yeah. There's that. There were, and this was before the dog was outside. And they call in the dog, and his name is Chucky. What kind of name is Chucky?
Now, that's the waterbed couple, right?
Yeah.
This random couple where the guy is sick and the woman's taking care of them, and they're on a waterbed. And yeah, they had a dog named Chucky. I don't know. Maybe that's some backwoods fucking Wisconsin shit. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Who knows? But I wrote in my notes, the real magic, the real sorcery here is how the hell that tea didn't spill when she put it in the waterbed. Like, she brings in a pitcher of tea, or not a pitcher. It's like
it was like a little tea kettle
thing with a couple glasses of stuff. And she sits it on the waterbed, and then just sits on the waterbed, so it's back and forth. But that shit did not spill, man. It's like, wow, that's impressive as hell. But that, if nothing else, pegs down the time period when they made this, sometime around 1982. Seeing that waterbed.
I'll tell you what,
I was just like, yep, that's 80s, man.
When I went away to college in Florida, I actually brought my old waterbed. So but the complex wouldn't let me have it because I had to have waterbed insurance. I was like, what? Is that a thing?
It makes sense because those things bust, and like now you just fucked up the ceiling or something, or the floor or whatever,
Yeah. I mean, I was on the bottom floor, but it didn't matter.
Yeah, so you would have messed up the floor. That
So yeah, air mattress was for.
I haven't seen a fucking waterbed in 30 years, man. That's something they got left in the 90s. I haven't seen one in forever.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Speaking of the waterbed couple, when they are attacked.
The whole premise surrounding.
The wife gets stabbed, killed, whatever.
Yeah.
Then the dude gets attacked, but they kind of run around with him for about 10 minutes before he's finally, I think he even makes it to like the van or something, and then goes down the road and is chased, and eventually he gets caught and killed. But by this, I don't remember whether you actually see the samurai or not, but you're getting closer, right? At this point.
At this time you don't.
You don't. Okay, so but you do get to see Sarah, who is in herself over there in the bed. She's dreaming. I guess she's having a wet dream. I don't know what the hell she's doing. It looks like she's, playing with herself.
She absolutely is. Yeah. I mean, she is.
But basically, it's almost like every time she has an orgasm, somebody dies.
Now, I will say this, and I will say that, like, because we're, we're in the Carolinas. This is the Bible Belt, this is basically what, the churches, when you're growing up, they say, don't play with yourself, people will die. Which actually they don't say that shit, but they allude that bad things happen.
Yeah.
When you give in to your urges.
Yeah, well, I've heard that one before. Like, if you're whacking off or something, you'll get a hairy palm or something. That always
you'll go blind.
Yeah, you'll go blind. There's always some bullshit,
Oh yeah.
But apparently, yeah, in Wisconsin, theirs is if you play with yourself, you're going to bring a ghost samurai back to life.
Yeah, and then flying product placement.
Yeah, the house goes haywire after this. It's like full on poltergeist mode. Shit's flying everywhere, knives and stuff. But like, no, Gary didn't get taken out with a knife or the toaster or anything like that. It was a flying can of Tab. They came across, and
oh man,
some of that was hilarious. By the way, I was literally laughing out loud in that moment when the shit was flying across because it looked so cheap ass.
Oh yeah, man, it was Nestle's Quick, Lipton tea, like Pepsi, and this random can of Tab.
A 1983 can of Tab came across and just whacked him upside the head, and it didn't kill him, but he got knocked out.
Yeah, and it made it bloody.
The mom, Kathy, she comes out and kind of like, I think she just basically kind of convinces the samurai ghost to leave at that point, right? Like,
yeah, she used some sort of psychokinetic, I don't know, whatever powers.
And as you've gone along up to this point in the movie, you figure she's got some, because there's this weird thing where like Sarah comes in and it's like, I don't know how I know her, but we've met before or something. Like you can see that there's some weird connection or something that honestly basically goes unexplained. Like I'm thinking like throughout this, like, oh well, maybe randomly Sarah grew up in this house and something happened to her, and now she, by chance she has come back, and now, but no, like if there was anything there, they either abandoned it or or it was never there, and I'm thinking better than they did, but either way, like. Because remember, even later on, there's a picture of Sarah, or there's a picture of a young girl, right? And you assume it's a picture of Sarah who didn't grow up there, but she burned, like, with telekinesis or some shit. She burns the picture. So you assume that means, like, well, there's some connection. She's been here before, but apparently not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's never explained, but, blood beat. So
but then there's this thing. So, like, it's kind of inferred throughout that, like, Kathy has some type of, she can see things. She has some kind of mind power, right? Something.
Yeah.
And then, like, she kind of, after this moment where the house goes crazy, Ted comes in, and I think, I don't remember whether his sister Dolly was there, but I think it was Gary. I think it was just her, Kathy, Gary, and Ted. And then she's like, they're not going to take my baby. He's not going to take my baby. Something, right? She's referring to something. Like, she knows what's going on, and she's the only one that can stop this. And then Ted's just like, Mama, you don't mean. Mama, you don't mean. He says this 3 or 4 times in a row.
Yeah,
Mama, you know what I mean? But there's no explanation as to what might be happening here.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's nothing.
Exactly.
Mama, you know me.
And
you
know what? Later on in the woods, and that shit must run in the family because Dolly, and after we see Gary axe the samurai in the woods, then the armor falls. Armor falls to the ground,
Yep.
and then you see Dolly like looking over at the armor, just kind of freaking out. Says "Mama's right," like 4 times.
So is there a scene we missed there, or was there a scene that explained things more and they just cut it out? I don't know what happened there. Like, it felt like something was missing, like, or at least there was an explanation coming that we never got. One or the other.
Well, there was the campfire scene when I guess the hunters were out. I guess
those random,
camping,
like, kind of random hobo hunters, whatever they were.
Yeah,
okay.
Campfire harmonica. But no, something I was thinking, like, well, that was the kill scene, and I think it was 3 hunters, maybe 4, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was thinking,
Ted and Sarah were having sex. Like, so it's cutting back and forth. Like, you see them having sex, cut back to the hobo hunters, cut back to them sex, right? And these dudes are dying as she's.
Oh yeah,
as she's being completed.
And I bet Ted was feeling real good about his bed skills. During that, only to find out it's not you that she's climaxing to.
She's climaxing to her samurai ghost, killing hobos,
like, seriously.
or whatever they were. That's where I think that's where you fully come to the conclusion that to me it's like, okay, well, if she gets her rocks off, somebody's going to die, right? Like, that's kind of the conclusion I came to at that moment.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know.
No, that's it. I mean, we're trying to make sense of a drug-fueled financial, what do we do?
Someone finances his fever dreams is what it is. And then Vinegar Syndrome comes along 35 years later and restores it. So here we are. So Sarah eventually, she kind of turns on Ted. There's finally this breakdown, and she just tosses him with her mind, I guess. Ha! He gets tossed across the room, and then she puts.
What does she do?
Ha! And then she puts on the samurai suit. So now she's full on she is
like
the samurai.
Super Shredder.
Yeah. So up to this point, now she's wearing the suit and she's kind of like possessed by the ghost or whatever, right? So it wasn't her up until now, I don't think, right? It was like some samurai ghost that was doing all this killing.
Yeah, something.
And now she's kind of one with the force, so to speak. She puts on now it's her, right? She is the samurai. And she immediately kills Gary with the samurai sword. And then you notice when she stabs Gary with it, and it kind of takes the sword with him, when he stabbed. Yeah. And then it cuts back to her, and she's got another samurai sword in her hand, like, bling.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a different kind of sword or just a continuity error. I don't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably such.
Kathy was stabbed, and then her face turns into oatmeal.
Yeah, it's like it was all crusted over. It was like within maybe 2-3 seconds.
Yeah. Apparently, I guess maybe now it's that Kathy is dead, or maybe Dolly, her kids, Dolly and Ted, had this power all along, but they do the old Wonder Twins activate power, form of samurai ass kicker, and then they take her out.
Yeah, I mean, there's like dominant and recessive genes, but I don't really know which is which in this respect. But you mentioned, Samurai Sarah. Samurai Sarah actually sounds like a Garbage Pail Kid.
It probably,
but
that would have been around the same time. So maybe that was maybe there was a Samurai Sarah, and that's where they got the whole idea for this movie. Who knows?
Was there? Yeah. Well, I think this is a better movie than. There is no. I think there is. This is definitely a better movie than the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
Yeah. Even as weird and as out of sorts as it is, I think I would definitely, if you're giving me the choice between the two, Absolutely. I'm watching this again before I go and watch the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right, so we have a little surprise here. We were actually able to pull in Professor Smoak from the road. He's actually on his way back from, a holiday excursion out west. And he's actually on the road from, you're coming from St. Louis, Missouri, right?
Yeah, well, Houston, Missouri. But yeah, it's out there. More rural area. We happened to be in St. Louis doing some things there. But yeah, out in the rural area of Missouri, or Missouri, I guess I should say, right?
Missouri, yeah.
That's the correct.
And I think you did the same thing last year around this time, right? Like you kind of came in toward the end to kind of give your thoughts about the movie because you were on the way back when we were recording. So
yeah, I can't remember. I was trying to remember. I didn't have time to like look it up to see it, but I can't remember what movie exactly that was. But yeah, it was about a year ago or so.
Yeah.
Same exact, probably about the same location too, right before I hit the mountains of Tennessee, because we're coming up on Knoxville here soon, and then the mountains after that. So, but yeah, it was about the same spot last time, I believe.
So I guess it's just going to turn into our annual holiday tradition of Smoak rolling in at the end to kind of give his 2 cents. But so Smoak hasn't had a chance to hear everything we've talked about because we're just bringing him in here after we've already kind of had our, Donny and I have already had the big discussion about the movie. But Smoak will give you the floor to, point out a few things and give your thoughts and stuff before we get into the ratings.
Yeah, it's a movie I've seen a handful of times now, I suppose you could say. I mean, I saw it back in the video rental days in the late 80s, early 90s or so. I eventually picked up the VHS copy of the movie well before, and I haven't done any research on like who released this first on DVD, but I kind of assumed, I don't know if y'all did or not either, that it was Vinegar Syndrome's new release, probably the only time that it's been on an official DVD release that I can think of. It might have been on some bootleg type, DVD set or so, but as far as I know, this is the only, the Vinegar Syndrome release was the first one on DVD
that's the research. That's the research that I had found, and we talked about that earlier, was that they were the ones that did this 4K restoration, and it had not been released since the early VHS releases of the mid 80s.
Yeah, that's what I assumed was the case, because I probably would have picked this up at some point if I'd heard wind of, Anchor Bay back in the day, or Blue Underground, or somebody releasing it. And not because I think it's a masterpiece or so, but I'll get to that. But when I first saw it back in the video rental days, it was like, it's one of those, like, what the fuck? I mean, I probably wasn't, I know I wasn't into regional horror movies as much as I would come to be later. But I guess you'd call this sort of a regional horror movie. I know it was shot in Wisconsin, but it was directed by a Frenchman who, and I don't know if y'all came across anything in the research of why he was in Wisconsin. I don't know if he had moved there, was currently living there, if he went there to shoot this movie specifically, or what. I know it was his only film, and he was the son of a French director who had made some known films. I get, I still rank this as a regional horror film, even though I guess he wasn't, he's from France, not from Wisconsin, but he was shooting it in Wisconsin, and it's very much like a little bit of regional horror film. Has a little bit of a art house vibe to it too. I don't know if y'all talked about that. I assume you probably did mention something about the way it was shot and edited, and that the cinematography actually, whoever was, I didn't look at this detail yet to see who was the camera operator / cinematographer, but it might have been the same person operating the cameras and the cinematographer or whatever. But I thought the cinematography looked well. I mean, I think they did some interesting stuff there. It was technically competent, handled well. Editing wise was too, even though you just got some strangeness in the editing and the cinematography, but you could tell that there was somebody that maybe knew what they were doing. Whereas you get some of these regional horror films from first-time directors or first-time editors, first-time writers, or whatever. It's a whole bunch of things going in the pot that make them either be really terrible or so bad they're good, or just good. It's a first-time director, first-time writer, and this stuff just comes off great, like pretty much like Sam Raimi's Evil Dead or something.
I'm more of the mind that this 4K restoration makes this movie look better than it has any right to look.
I watched it. Now, like I said, I had the VHS, and it's been a little while since I've seen it. Maybe a couple of years ago, like we watched it for Christmas. Maybe 2 years ago or so. Maybe it was even a year ago. But
Merry Christmas.
But yeah, I watched YouTube actually has the Vinegar Syndrome. I guess put it on YouTube. Okay. You can watch it for free on YouTube. It was, I guess it's not 4K technically if it's coming from YouTube, and I'm watching it through my phone. but it looked better than I'd ever seen it before. Certainly, looking at it on YouTube, the restored version of whatever, not 4K, but probably Blu-ray quality, at least coming through YouTube to my phone, was heads and tails above, I guess, the VHS quality of the VHS print. Now, is that a good or bad thing? It depends on what your perspective. I kind of tend to like that VHS look when it comes to these types of low budget, off the wall type movies. But I'd say they did a slam bam job with the remastering of this thing, Vinegar Syndrome, as they usually do. Probably, like you said, more than it deserves.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely out there as far as, like, I don't know where the hell this movie was going. I don't know, like, as far as the storyline, there's nothing ever really given away. You just kind of have to make your way through what you think it means or what you think is going on. Whether it's, the samurai is a ghost at first, is it the psychic manifestation of what's her name, Sarah?
Sarah. Yep.
Yeah. Or because eventually, whatever it starts out as, I mean, obviously she's connected to it. The mom also has psychic powers. Then you find out the kids also have, they're not kids, her kids, but they're adults, but they also have psychic powers. Everybody almost in the movie has psychic powers, and Sarah's linked to the samurai, but where the hell is the samurai? Why is there a samurai ghost or manifestation, whatever, in rural Wisconsin?
Yeah.
We don't get that. we don't get an answer to that. We don't get an answer to the psychic connection at all, whether why her mom has it, why Sarah has it, why the kids well, you assume the kids have it because they hereditary from the mom, but this samurai ghost or manifestation that Sarah becomes possessed by later, I guess after the guy like slashes at it with the axe, and then it just falls to the ground and the manifestation's gone, but then Sarah puts on the armor and becomes the samurai again later. So yeah, all this stuff is just up in there. You have no fucking clue what's going on.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And again, I guess that's maybe coming from the French director, from the guy, the director, right? I guess he wrote it too, the French guy, because it's very, I don't know, it's almost like some sort of Wisconsin rural hillbilly-ish whatever thing meets highbrow art house.
Yeah, there's
a lot going on there. There's a lot going on. Yeah.
Now, I kind of the synth soundtrack is kind of endearing to me. If you like, if you like 80s horror and you like synth soundtrack, you get it in here. But it's not on the definitely not on the level of Goblin or
we talked about that earlier. The fact that like the movie starts off that way, but then they just abandon it for like classical music.
And that's probably because of what was free to use.
That's very true. Yeah, and what better piece to put in there than like O Fortuna, the Carl Orff, classical music track that you hear in like Excalibur. Hell, you even hear it in the Doors movie with Jim Morrison, of course, with Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison. You hear the song a lot, all over the place. It works. Although I don't know if it works necessarily for what they were going for with the samurai ghost manifestation, attacking. It goes good with like King Arthur riding in, and so, not so much maybe for this, but it does peak it up for me. Like, oh yeah, hell yeah, I love this, Carl Orff track. So more power to them, I guess, for using that one. They could have used something else, I guess, that would have been less exciting. But yeah, like Donny said, it's probably because it was public domain, free to use.
All right, well, I guess it's what we call nut cutting time. Let's get down to brass tacks here and figure out what our ratings are. Donny, I'll let you go first. Where do you stand on this movie?
As weird as it is, man, I wasn't bored the entire time, so that's a plus. So, but no, yeah, I mean, call it for what it is. Is it something for me is like it has to be at least 3 stars for me to watch it again. I'm good without watching this again. So thing is, it's definitely weird, but I think right now I'm gonna give it maybe 2 stars. I think I'm gonna give it 2 stars right now.
Professor, I'll go ahead and let you go.
Oh yeah. As I said, I've seen it a handful of times. Not an inordinately amount of times, but enough now to. Also, before I give my rating, I'll say, Donny, you'll probably at some point down the road, even though you give it under the 3 stars, meaning you might not be a movie that you would revisit again, somewhere down the road, a few years or so from now, in the back of your head, you're gonna have the blood beat. I need to watch it again.
Nah. The thing is, like, it wasn't bad. It was just odd. It was just like a different.
It is.
It's just a different kind of movie.
Definitely, and even me being a fan of regional horror movies and seeing a lot of these types of low budget regional horror movies, this one stands out. I'm not saying it's like a masterpiece of regional horror, but I think it's because of the whole French director, first time director for him, and then growing up, I guess, around filmmaking because of his father, and then being plopped down in rural Wisconsin and making a movie that you just can't, I guess, replicate that again. So yeah, there's definitely something interesting there, and it's like it takes a while for it to get started. I mean, the movie's like at least halfway over before the samurai even really shows up, or before you even get a second kill. Really, whenever you get that first kill at the beginning with the hunter or whatever and that also you don't get an explanation for exactly. Was it the samurai manifestation that killed him? You kind of assume, because I mean, if he was way over here and they weren't even shooting in that direction, you kind of assumed that was the case. But whatever, it was somebody we didn't even know, and then you got to wait another 20-30 minutes. No. Yeah, it's about 40-something minutes, right? Almost to the 50-minute mark before you get the samurai killing the neighbors or whatever. So, it takes a while to get off. But then once it gets to that second half of the movie, that's where it really, I think, shines, quote unquote, shines. That's where it gets really even weirder. And like I don't know, like everybody, I think I did hear the director was on drugs when he wrote or when he made the movie.
Yep. We talked about that earlier.
Y'all mentioned that? Y'all found out that?
Yeah, apparently he was on some, he didn't say what, but he was definitely on something. Yeah.
I would assume there had to be some sort of psychedelic if I had to, that was a betting man on it.
Yeah. I think he'd probably win that bet.
As a viewer, it makes you feel like you're on psychedelic yourself, kind of watching this. And then, you get all the weird animation, hand-drawn animation on the film cell stuff at the end of it with the psychic battle or whatever. But yeah, it's a movie that I enjoy for what it is. It's not one that I pull out, like I said, all the time and watch. Certainly don't watch it every Christmas, but I mean, I've watched it a few times now, and I'll watch it again a few more years or so from now. I'll pull it out and watch it again. It's an interesting kind of, and also, like I said, I like these types of regional horror. We haven't done a whole lot of them yet, but we'll get to some more as time goes by. So I have an affinity, as you'll notice, as we do more of these, for these types of just off the wall movies of like single director, like didn't do anything else, or shot in some rural area of backwoods, wherever. So I might be a little bit more lenient on these types of movies than others would be, or more so than they have any right to be. I think I'll go with 2.5 on it. So that's it. That's my rating 2 is kind of like, sometimes it's like I have to give it a 3. Also, I'll repeat viewings on it. This one I do watch more than a couple times or so, but it's going to be years apart. So yeah, I'm going to stick with the 2.5 on it for me for now.
For me, I think, on my scale, I think it kind of lands like, I'm going to repeat what Donnie said. I think it lands on with a 2. And that's not necessarily, for the reasons that you guys said. It's not necessarily that I hated it. It's just so damn weird. And there's so many unanswered questions, that come up throughout the movie. And then by the time the movie ends, like, well, they didn't answer most of that shit, but who gives a hell? Let's just move on. It's done, it's fine for what it is. And like I said, I think this restoration really makes it look a lot better than it would, like like you said, Smoak, if you were watching the old VHS copy, that came out back in the day. This makes it look way better. But, my hat's off to Vinegar Syndrome for making this thing look, for making it sing a little bit, because it does look great. And you can tell that there was some damage to the film throughout, but otherwise, I think it looks fine for what it is. So it's watchable. I would probably watch it again randomly one of these days, but it's definitely not one I'm going to seek out. So I think for me, it's a 2. It's a 2. And like we said, before, Will's not here, so we can't get his 2 cents, but we'll get his rating at some point and the official kill count from him. But until then,
connections from the crypt.
Well, yeah, in true Bloodbeat form, I should probably, maybe get my rocks off, and then maybe that'll make a connection. But yeah, nothing here from cast or crew to past Spook Show episodes. Probably not much of a surprise. So
yeah, because I don't think almost anyone tied with this went on to do much else.
No.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That there's not going to be any connection whatsoever to it. All right, so with that out of the way,
Gore Score.
Well, one of the things that you kind of hope for in these like low budget movies, horror movies, is that if they don't have necessarily the greatest talent to put together a fantastic script and movie, then at least they would throw in a lot of gore, right? But unfortunately, that's one thing we don't get too much of with Blood Beat. And if it's got blood in the title, you would think there'd be more of it. You have the hunter at the beginning who's gut shot or stabbed by the samurai, whatever. They don't really explain it, but he's got blood around the stomach area, right? And then you have some stabbing with the neighbor, and then her husband who gets chased. So first of all, he gets thrown through the window, right? And then he goes on the run, makes it to the family's house, the main family's house in the movie, and then smashes his face through the door, right? Or gets his face smashed through the door by the samurai. There's a little bit of blood there, but it's not anything really super gory. The rest of the movie, I can't think of too much that's really overtly hardly. I don't know if there's any more gore really beyond that point. I think I would have to go low end with this one, since it's not a whole lot of splatter. It's mainly just blood, not a whole lot of gore splatter. I mean, as far as like, heads hacked off and limbs hacked off, which you would hope for with a samurai anyway. Don't get a whole lot of that. Just mainly blood strewn about in a couple of different scenes. So I think I have to go with a 4 on the gore score for this.
For like you said, for a movie that's called Blood Beat, it's fairly bloodless, ironically. So
yeah.
Before we wrap Blood Beat up for good and put it away, I will note that the only thing that I could find as far as a critic rating or whatever is there really was none. Only, on IMDb where you have users rating it, it gets a 4.6 out of 10 stars. That was the only thing I could dig up. So that's around the usual score we get for most of the movies we watch here, right? Especially from the IMDb audience. That's probably about right. Roughly mid. That's about mid of the line. That's about where we are. So also I'll add, now this is without having Will's score. The three of us, our consensus score was 2.1 stars. So just to let you know where we sit right now until we get Will's 2 cents. 2.1 stars. That's where we'll leave it. So next week we come back with our latest Spook Show Spotlight. It's been a few minutes since we had one, and we're going to be taking a deep dive into Christmas slasher films. So you want to come back next Monday at 6 p.m. East, wherever you get your podcast, and you want to hear our conversation about Christmas slashers. So, last year we kind of went through all the holiday movies itself. This one we're getting more specific in the subgenre of horror slasher movies. So it's going to be an interesting talk, interesting dive. You don't want to miss that. And then, of course, the week after that, we're going to be episode 139, right before Christmas, or the week before Christmas, I should say, on December 19th. We're going to be talking about the Advent calendar from 2021. Lots of cool things coming up. And we've got an interesting cannon fodder the day after Christmas coming up, and we'll talk about that in the coming days. So, we'll leave it there. So, for Will, who couldn't be with us, Professor Smoak, Donny, I'm Josh. We are the All-American Spook Show Podcast, and we'll talk to you next week.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.